Okay, we're live. Hey guys. I know everybody's in the chat. Raw, I'm so happy to see you. Thank you for being here with me. You know, you're one of my favorite people to talk to, and we always have the best conversations. And I won't keep you too long. I know your kiddo has a birthday today, and actually, I have another friend who has a son who has a birthday today, too.
Okay, nice.
So, how have you been?
I've been pretty good. I mean, I've been stretched kind of all over the place, but that's expected. You know, when you come into this realm and you awaken, you want to help as many people as you can. So it's no biggie. I'll rest when I get to the other side.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, I find that I'm that way too. It's like, I feel like I have so much to give, and then I feel like I can always be like cutting myself short, or I feel like it's okay, I can go without. It's no big deal, right? I just can't let others down.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel, especially in this community when we are under so much fire and attack by the powers that used to be. Uh, they use so many weapons against us in so many ways, not just here in the awakened hour, but they do this also in our asleep state, in the astral realm, where these elites do most of their work because they vibrate at lower frequency.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. You know, you had a video you made one time where you were talking about like right before your teen years, you started having panic attacks. And when I
Mhm.
turned 12, is right literally around the time I turned 12, I started having full-blown paralyzing panic attacks. Like the only thing I can relate it to is like for anyone who's ever been stoned for the first time, like that panic you go into, right? Like where you're overly hypersensitive of your faculties and you're like, "Oh, I don't want to die." That was kind of what it was like for me. And this went on for a year, Raw, and it was so bad that my aunt that I lived with at the time had to drug me to go to sleep at night because I was so afraid if I went to sleep at night, I was going to stop breathing and die. And I really wrote this off because at that time in my life, my father was awaiting sentencing. You know, he did 7 years in San Quentin, and I was being shifted between a evil stepmother and family members and just all over the place. And my brother and I were abandoned at a gas station in Arizona where we were not from. I grew up in San Diego. We went to Arizona for Christmas, and the next day my stepmom just kicked us out of the car and left us there all day. And she did eventually come back, but it was long enough just to drop us off at another house, and I never saw her again. And I liken this relationship with my stepmom to Stockholm syndrome because she was incredibly abusive, but for some reason I felt incredibly attached to her. And a lot of my
Mhm.
abandonment issues came from this relationship where, you know, she'd tell me, go home, take a shower, and we're going to go ride horses. And I'd come back and she'd be gone for days. So
Wow.
these panic attacks, they really started during this time. And like I said, I wrote this off I'm 40 years old now. It was not till this last year when I saw the video you made where I was like, holy shit, these panic attacks had nothing to do with the trauma of being shifted around. This had to do with being taken in my sleep and being in the programs and the trauma based mind control they put us through. And
Yeah.
the moment that I heard that video where you made that, I was like, this is the reason that this happened to me. I know this. Um,
Mhm.
how did you
Well, they
figure it out?
they set us up. Like I said, when we incarnate, and they've been doing this for thousands of years. When we incarnate, we come through this net. They know the type of frequency. Sometimes they can identify what star uh, family we are going to be born in, or they know exactly who we are as star seeds coming in through this net. You know, it's all intertwined with this network, the central network that they use. I call it more or less like a Luciferian technology that they use. So they track us. They track our mother. They track our father. and then they hijack the parents. At least one of the parents are going to be compromised. At least one of them. Sometimes they'll try to compromise both, so that you become more victim. They want you in this victim mentality mode. That way, that they can, once you start going into these programs, it's easier for them to hijack your consciousness. It's easier for them to program you, and they do it in many ways. But they look for that high vibrational. They look for your abilities. That's what they want. They want to be able to use you and then put you back into your this state of being, in your awakened state. But they take you on so many levels. Let me ask you, how old were you when you started with the sleep paralysis?
I don't know really how to answer that because the sleep paralysis has become consciously at the forefront of my mind in the last 8 years. But I have had experiences my entire life with clairvoyance, with what they call death premonitions. Um, my mom says my dad tells me this story when I was like 2 years old. They were reading me Goodnight Moon for the millionth time. And I looked at my mom and I said, Mom, when I was born, it hurt, but I'm okay now. And my dad says I constantly was in my mother's mind. But I'm sure that I have had experiences my whole life because of the obsession I had with flying as a child, the depression from not being able to fly, and just constantly knowing things were going to happen before they would occur.
Well,
So,
my sleep paralysis started around the age of 13. Even though I was getting visited by many different types of being, both positive and negative. I was being all from the age of 3 years old all the way up to 13 years old. I was both getting visited by positive and non-positive entities. And some of them would be physical and some of them would be non-physical, meaning that they reside in another dimension, but step through in another frequency. Sometimes they will come in as light beings, um, and speak with me, take my consciousness out of this young body, and we will go off to different places. Um, the more negative beings, they will come in, and you can just instantly feel them feeding off your energy. They will sit in the corner of a room and just observe you. And a lot of times your higher self will not step in because you need that knowledge. You need to know exactly what you're dealing with. You need that frequency base knowledge. You need to see this going on. That way you can evolve and become stronger. One thing I can say about the dark forces, if you don't go into victim mentality and you learn how to deal with certain things, you will become stronger. But at the age of 13, I noticed that I will go through a series of sleep paralysis, and I didn't realize that I was in the secret space program at that time. You're not going to know that, but you are going to see other entities. You're going to see other entities like shadow beings. So I kept telling my mom that I would see certain things as a child. And my mom was way more spiritual than my father. My father, he knew things, but he kept things to himself. He grew up in the occult around my grandmother, which I told you guys about. She was in the occult. My great grandfather and my grandfather all were in these Navy programs. Then my father left the Marines and then went into the Navy, and he had all of these kids, which he essentially the females. He went after the females and molested a lot of my sisters back then. But 13, I remember seeing these seeing this the shadow being. As soon as the shadow being got on to like my back, I noticed that I could not move. And this will happen. This will go on for like months. And I was already in martial arts at the age of 9 years old. And so by the age of 13, I learned how to fight spiritually, and the martial arts system. The name was Warriors for Christ, but we taught Kempo Taijutsu. So it was already ordained that I was going to be a warrior for Christ regardless and come up under the law of oneness. But this particular shadow being, once I had enough of dealing with this, and I was dealing this for months and months, I decided that I'm going to fight. So I would lift myself up off the bed and I would turn my head and I saw this figure, this female figure, and it was a shadow being. So when I looked at her, she had a mouth open. She looked just like a witch, and that's exactly what it was. So when once I allowed it to happen, these visions, I saw her. I saw this elderly lady in normal clothes, and then I saw her in like a um, witch outfit, and then I saw an elderly man, and then I saw him like in this brown warlock type outfit on, and these was like flashes. Once I looked at her, I saw these flashes come through my mind. What they were doing, they were in the occult. What they were doing was trying to access my ability because they did not have the ability to go up into these other realms that they wanted access to. They will actually get on kids because we were gifted. There are many children out there right now that are spiritually gifted and don't know just how powerful they truly are. But these darker beings, they know and they home in on it. So she would just ride me, ride my astral body. That's what she was after. She wasn't after the physical body. She only needed my physical body to stay still while she straddled my astral body. She needed to go into these other realms that she did not have access to.
Sounds like she was using your etheric body as like a portal or a gateway access to those frequencies that she wanted to get to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. Let me just back up a little bit. So they dismantled my family at the age of 9 years old. I didn't know this till a few years ago. There was a curse on my mother's side of the family. My grandfather was a high up Freemason. He was in the Navy. I have a lot of family members that were Marine Corps and Navy.
Yeah.
And my mother's side of the family is 100% Irish. Now, I'm like a Heinz 57. We just don't tan well. But my mother's side of the family, every firstborn daughter died at the age of 39, going back to like
Wow.
medieval times. There was someone on my mom's side of the family that the story goes that pissed off a witch. There was a curse that was inflicted. And I'm the firstborn daughter, and I'm 40 years old. I'm 40 and a half now. But, Aaron and I were talking about this, and maybe one of the reasons that this curse was broken is because I didn't have children. There was no children for me to pass this curse on to. And so therefore I was able to end it. But let me tell you the story about my mother. My mom, as it turns out, was tracing the family tree, and she was visiting all the pyramids before she passed. In fact, we were supposed to go to Egypt the week after my mother died. The passports, everything were set up, and she'd been down to Chichen Itza. She'd been down to Mexico. She had seen all the pyramids, and she'd gone with my godfather, who is a Shriner, and he was a monk. Now, he was asking too many questions and was booted out, and I never liked him. I mean, he was like hugging a board, okay? And he did not like children, but he was very spiritually awake. And my dad is a white warlock, and he was studying with a man from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn whose name was Ophiel, Ophiel. The guy's written several books, and he's deceased now. But I did not grow up in a religiously structured household. Now, I was baptized Catholic, but I can't remember going to church. My parents did not enforce religious beliefs on my brother and I. And for some reason, I was obsessed with understanding religion. Like, I almost wanted to be a nun when I was 18. I almost became Mormon. If it wasn't for the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, I probably would have done it. I was a wild child. But the day my mother died, I came home from horseback riding camp and I started having premonitions that if she went to the hospital, she wasn't going to come back home. Now, let me tell you how weird this was, Raw. Most major surgeries take place in the morning because they don't want food in your stomach, right? She died in
Yeah.
one of the wealthiest communities in San Diego at the time, which was known as La Jolla, California. It's where UCSD is. The Salk Institute is right next to this hospital. And this dermatologist that was performing liposuction did not have an anesthesiologist present. And my dad drops her off at 8 o'clock at night. Now, this is after me having a full-blown meltdown. I told my mom is telling me, oh, I'm going to be home after I go to the hospital in the morning. And I have a full meltdown that if you leave, you're not coming home. And I hate you for leaving. And I mean, it's one of the most solidified memories I have in my mind is my parents' minivan rolling down the driveway and knowing she's never coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was part of my voice to skull grooming was I do think I was being given insight to things that were going to happen. They tried to train me with superstitions to groom me that when I would get the hit with this voice to skull to think that I actually had some way of getting these events not to happen, right? And what better way than fear with events that are solidified to happen to think that you could have done something different. Like if I touched the doorknob 3 times or if I hadn't split that pole, this wasn't going to happen. Sometimes things are just destined to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But my mother died. My father went to prison. Both times before these things happened, I had full visions and nothing I did was going to stop it from happening. Right. Let me tell you how weird this is. So the doctor that performed this surgery had already had one medical malpractice lawsuit pending against her. And then my mother passes away. The life insurance for the medical malpractice was through Berkshire Hathaway, who is owned by Bill Gates' best friend, Warren Buffett. I don't think that's ironic. I think that there's something to that. This was not the life insurance my parents had. Now, mind you, about a month before my mother passed, my parents tripled their life insurance. They had already done legal paperwork for me to have a guardian ad litem. My mother was only 39 and she died 3 months to the day of turning 39.
Hold that thought real quick because I want to tell you something that most hospitals that are connected to big pharma and big tech, they are connected to the elites. You have to be careful with certain insurance policies too, because there are hidden traps. A lot of times when your loved ones have accidents and they are pronounced dead, in certain hospitals, they have what we call soul traps. They can take your soul and trap it using harmonics, frequency, and light. They have there's like many other levels under the hospital where they hold souls down there in like these frequency nets. And it has everything to do with certain hidden contracts that you may have entered in without reading the fine print. Okay. So there are things that humanity must know. They can take your soul using these soul contracts, make it look like an accident, and your souls are stored in hospitals on another level of the floor. Okay. There's another level beneath that bottom level, and they can ship it off to the highest bidder. They can use your soul like a battery. They can also clone another duplicate of you and then do away with your current existence and use your clone and that soul somewhere else. So
I think they did that with Renetta.
Yeah. So go back to what you were saying. I wanted
Oh,
to say
I
that
was just
because
gonna say, well, so you reminded me of that, but you know what's even more interesting than that is like, so my mother, right? Even the circumstances around her death. She's in this medical plaza that is attached to La Jolla Scripps Memorial Hospital, one of the best hospitals in the United States. Okay.
Mhm.
And she still is a practicing doctor to this day. Her husband is one of the best, like, leading brain and spine surgeons for the last since the 90s. Okay. So she didn't lose her license. She's still practicing. And what I
Mhm.
think is interesting is this. So they take her under anesthesia and then they leave her alone in the room for 10 minutes. Who the hell takes someone under and leaves them alone? Okay. First of
Yeah.
all, I went to have a deep cleaning on my teeth and they didn't leave me alone. So they leave her alone. She's in cardiac arrest. And then they come back 10 minutes later and they find her and they try to bring her out of the cardiac arrest with, like, I think it was epinephrine. Aaron's in the chat. He was an EMT and he knows how to he knows how to read like medical terminology. And it wasn't until I met Aaron and he read my mother's death certificate that I even understood what happened. They brought her out of the cardiac arrest so abruptly, they blew her heart valves out. Then they
Wow.
called 911. When they called 911, you have to think what better circumstance to be in than literally in the doctor's office attached to the emergency room, right? They
Mhm.
could not get to the doctor's office. The elevators stopped working. They can't get to her. They don't start CPR for a good 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Something's rotten in Denmark, right? Like the whole
Yeah.
situation's so screwed up.
It was
And
set up.
yeah, it was totally set up. It was totally set up. The whole thing was set up. And, I think all this was done to try to harden my heart because I had this wonderful woman that was on Typical Skeptic. Her name was Magdalena Messenger, and the woman was a medium. And I always wanted to meet Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, right? Like, I
Mhm.
was so amazed with this woman because I wanted somebody to read my mother because I have felt her around me my entire life. Now, in the years past, I realized I'm clairvoyant, I'm a medium. She's right next to me. I'm capable of channeling this energy. Um, but she told me, she goes, "You're beautiful in every way. Your heart is not hardened. They tried to get to you, but they could not." And it's true. I hold no bitterness in my heart. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And when I used to pray, I
Yeah.
used to pray to the source and be like, God, can you not forgive these fallen entities? You're all perfect. You're all knowing. Surely you did not create souls to come in that were destined for hell with no chance, right? Like, I believe that honestly, our purpose here, whether this is a simulated reality or whatever the fuck we're in, I believe our purpose here is to love and heal and bring those that are fallen back to source being.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, this particular matrix system is a false matrix system. You can consider this more or less like a game show that we all are participating in. If we just learn to just look away from that victim mentality and see that nothing here is, we can't take anything here personal. We can't. That's where we fall into the traps. Now, these elites, these pharaohs that want to be worshipped, they want us in that victim mentality mode because it locks us in this game and it pulls us away from who we truly are as powerful spiritual beings. Now, they want us to consider them as gods, little gods, but we all are little gods. We all are creator beings. Every single one of us are creator beings. We are more creator gods than they are. We don't, we can manifest at will. They need our energy. They need our collective consciousness to be hijacked to manifest what they want because they just don't hold that light. If they could just see who they are, break out of this darkness that they in and step back into their own light, then they can't remember. They have forgotten who they are. They have been playing the victim for so long. And they choose not to look at themselves. So they do not take responsibility for what they have done, what they have. And we have participated. Why have we participated in the game? because we are powerful. That's why we're not victims, but they made us believe that we are. We just need to stop thinking in the manner that they want us to think in and remember who we are. All we have to do is look at our own self and self reflect and become better. That's all it takes.
I would totally agree with that. Hey, I wanted to ask you, I keep having videos come across my feed and people that share memories with me. And there's this repetitive occurrence where I keep hearing about this giant chessboard of life.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you've had any experiences with that.
In what way in particular? Because it's all one chess. It's all one
Yeah.
big
Oh,
chessboard.
sure. Yeah, I can be more specific. So it's like almost like an astral projection or a near-death experience where you're literally on a black and white chessboard and there's four watchers. Two are, I mean, they're Titan size, huge, okay? Two are
Mm-hmm.
white, two are black. And when the white side makes a move that scores, something benevolent happens to Earth. When the black side of the chessboard makes a move that scores, something traumatic happens. I've had two people that I've heard stories about. One was a lady that had a near death experience that was observing this. And that was how I learned how the game was being played. And she was told by the watchers, do not judge us. This is our job that we have been given. Then I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to someone, I don't have permission to tell who it is, or else I would. But he was there and he had a full battle with Abaddon, Apollyon. Okay, so we know who that is. Said he was massive, but that he was so, this person who told me the story was so spiritually strong that with his mind, he was able to blast him off of this chessboard. And he kept reiterating, this is a game, Michelle. This is all a game. We have come here to play the game. And maybe it's a game
Yeah.
that's already been determined the outcome of it, right? Since we hold this power. I do believe that the simulation, the battery of the simulation is our Lucia, our soul essence. And once we all decide, hey, we're out, right? Deuces. I'm not playing the game anymore. And we decide to leave, that this simulation or this density will collapse back to stardust energy, which these archons are hoping we don't figure out, because it's this energy that, like, I imagine it like a treadmill, right? Or like a conveyor belt. And they're just staying one hop ahead of the saw, right? The proverbial saw. And it's
Yeah.
as long as that we are feeding this battery pack that the simulation in the game keeps on going.
Mm-hmm. Because we are a multidimensional aspect, there's many versions of you on many different timelines. Each game is played differently on each level of our aspects. So if this current aspect of ourselves know that this is a game and we know how to opt out of the game by not buying into the illusion of fear, separation, um, like playing the victimhood, then they have nothing to feed the system. They literally have nothing to feed the system. It collapsed. But it must be done like that on each level, each timeline. It must be done that way, where we all awaken and realize that we really don't have to play the game. We really don't. I mean, this is all choice. We all choose to come in and experience um, the human experience, the soul evolution, and then step back into our full self. This is a realm where we are like basic humans. In other timelines, in other realms, we are like gods. We can fly. Um, we can bilocate. We can move things with our minds. We can summon many things. You know, it's just this realm right here where we're kind of like basic humans living out, but we do have spiritual abilities. Like we can remote view. We are very psychic, and sometimes we have the ability to bilocate. Using other remote skills. Also, we can move things with our minds. It's not at the level that these other timeline versions of ourselves can do, but still, as long as we assume who we are on a spiritual level, understanding that we are not the body, this is just a vehicle for the soul to experience the human and physical aspect of this current reality. But we are still powerful. We can manifest as a collective.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I have some friends that can literally change their temperature of their body with their mind. I have friends that can slow time down, like the clock. Um, I always think of that movie Matilda with Danny DeVito and the
Mhm.
little girl. She sits there at the table, like trying to get the glass of water to tip over. And that was me as a child. Like I was upset I couldn't fly. I was upset I couldn't move things with my mind. It was like I could remember it. It was such probably a compulsive, like infatuation. I mean, that's where my mind, unless I was being distracted, that's where my mind was in my sleep. That's where my mind was in my daydreams. I didn't understand it. And then the heartbreak to finally be told, Michelle, your wild imagination, you need to rein it in. It's time to grow up, right? So heartbroken. And then as an adult to find out, you know what? All those things are real. Dragons, mermaids, flying, moving things with our minds. We are the super soldiers. It was such a relief to be told these are not figments of the imagination, that these are true memories that you remember in the core and depths of your bones. It was such a relief to find out they were true that it took away all the pain of the heartbreak to be told, no, it's not real. You need to grow up, right?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
love the one thing I love about this reality is, and I always call it Peter Pan syndrome, is if you believe, it can happen. And I've
Mhm.
experienced that. I call it the sphere of availability, right? Where
Yeah.
you find this frequency, and maybe it's in your dreams, or maybe it's where you get that. I, I always think of that state where you all of a sudden you realize you've been staring off, right? And you're like, oh, where was I at? That state of mind, it's very lucid. And
Mhm.
I have pulled things through, both good and bad, but I almost know when it's going to happen because I can feel the frequency of it resonate. And
Yeah.
that's the beautiful thing about us is, you talk about us being creator gods or the ability to manifest. And this was the gift we've been given. I think that I think it was Jay Skyrunner who talked about how they have somewhere around the flood that they changed us over, did a reset where they put us in a body where the chakras at the meridian points, the hands and the feet, had been
Mhm.
disconnected, right? We used to just wave our hand, speak the word, something would come through into the solid state.
Yeah.
I think there are those that are still capable of doing it, and these elites, they sure fucking practice it, right? That's
Yeah.
their whole MO is, oh, you have a child, like you're so vivid in the imagination and you're not stable and you need to be serious. No, it's actually those that have the ability to keep the childlike heart and have the vivid imagination that can pull these things through. And
Mhm.
I know you're good at that.
Yeah. Well, you got to think of these dark magicians, these 33 and above Masons. When they are in the occult, they hide all of this hidden knowledge, and they work. Uh, they do it in a manner where everything is inverted, but they have to do it in a collective standpoint because they can't do it alone because they just are not that powerful. One child, a small child, and this is exactly why they go after children because they know just how powerful they are. They are their imaginations become like reality in this world, and it holds a high frequency. A child is so innocent. And with that frequency, they can't stand, they can't even come next to it. This is why they provoke fear in a child, because it lowers their frequency. It lowers their ability to connect to a source and outside of this realm where they want us trapped. They can't trap the soul, but what they can do, they can trap the mind. So that's how they do it. They manipulate our minds.
I would totally agree with that. My friend Maya, she's in the chat and she talks about Monsters Incorporated. And God, was I devastated when I found out how perverse Disney was, because I was like, oh, I'm so pure of heart. I only watch Disney movies. I don't like to watch, I can't stand a scary movie. Okay. I've got such a vivid imagination. I went and saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the theaters. I couldn't even go home to my apartment for 3 weeks raw. I had to stay at my friend's house. I finally go home. And for a month after I go home, I'm doing perimeter checks of the apartment. I live 3 blocks from the beach in Southern California. And I think some guy in a chainsaw is coming through, right? So I do the perimeter check. Then I got to go shut the door. Then I got to make sure no one snuck in after me. This was a reoccurring nightmare for a year that I had. And I don't even care to recall the scene that it was in, but it was so just grotesque and dark. And it was so much more than a dream. And I think that what I'm trying to segue to is this. That was around the time that I realized that my dream state was more than a dream. And I'm going to recall a story, and I'm sure you've heard me tell this, and Aaron's in the chat. Aaron and I both woke up one night screaming at the same time. We were having the same shared nightmare. And what it was is, I recall this like hallway that it was like a curved hallway. Okay. And there, whatever was around that corner, I was terrified of seeing. But whatever it was came for Aaron. And at that point, I was like, oh, hell fucking no, right? Like, you're not going to take this person I love. And I remember like shoving him behind me and standing to face whatever this energy was. And this portal opened, and I remember Aaron being sucked through, and I'm like holding onto his feet, and I'm like screaming, and I'm pulling him back. And we both sit up in bed screaming at the same time, right? And we both compared notes. We were having the same nightmare, except for instead of in his nightmare, I'm being pulled through the portal. In my nightmare, he is, right? Yeah. And at that point, I realized, holy fuck, there's something else going on here. And over the years, I've had dreams. And later on in time, these dreams, like I've walked into the job where I was having the dream of, down to the computer program on the screen. And so, I did some shows with Wolf Dragon about the dream state, the Archons, the Cthulhu, which is controlling not just the subconscious memory or the mind, but an even I can't think of the word for it. It's not subconscious, but it's the state of mind where you're not even aware. And they like to control us there. And I kind of liken it to this. I'm wondering if we're actually dead here in this reality, or if we're asleep. It's almost like a death coming here, right? Because we have to give up all our superpowers. We have to agree when we come into this prison planet or reincarnation cycle that we may not get out right away. And we have to agree to forget. That's part of the game, right?
Yeah, it's not a death. It's more or less a sleep.
I think of that movie, The Matrix.
Yeah, it becomes a death, like when you keep incarnated and then you lose. Each time you keep losing more of yourself by not remembering who you truly are. This is why a lot of the starseeds, the light workers and light warriors started incarnated, because there were actually legitimate soul families coming in here for the experience. And then they fell into the illusion. They bought into the illusion. And each incarnational cycle, they felt like they needed to redo this, like this was how it was supposed to be. They forgot, like, there is another world outside of this matrix system. So we started incarnating and have to somewhat become almost like them each time. But each time we became a little bit better. We became a little bit more cunning. That's when the elites, these pharaohs, were like, well, we got to keep tampering with their genetics, because the longer they live, the more they're able to awaken and see through the illusion. So we got to cut down their lifespan so that they die quicker and then come back and forget more. So that was all it was. That's how we kept coming back in, and we kept losing each time we incarnate. We will lose more of ourselves. So, and then we just had to bring more powerful beings in here, like legitimate angel beings incarnating into human flesh, that would not forget each time they incarnated, like they knew. And they will come in being like scientists, doctors, spiritual teachers, and they didn't like that. They did not like that at all. That's why they started killing off a lot of these people, or trying to buy them off. So
Yeah. That's the truth. I know I've told this story, but why not beat a dead horse while I'm at it? I attended it's called No Mind Meditation, okay? And God, do I suck at meditation, because if you don't think my mouth's not doing this, my head is all the time, right? And it's like, oh, the whole point of meditation is to get quiet inside. And I'm like, I know the goal. It's the getting to the goal, right? Like there's always something going on in my head.
but
And
that's probably part of your meditation, because
the talking,
yes,
probably.
because I think what you're doing, Michelle, is that not all human beings are going to operate at the same. They don't have to do it the same way. Your frequency of what you're thinking about, you're tapping into like a meditational state, and it may take that tone in your head for you to connect with information. So don't beat yourself up about that. There's many ways to meditate. You can meditate by doing something you enjoy doing. You can write, and that's a form of meditation. You can be reading a book, and that's a form of meditation. Anything that you feel comfortable with while you're doing it is a form of meditation.
That makes
As long
sense.
as you're able to tap in, that's all it is. Just tapping into who you are. That's meditation.
That makes so much sense, actually. So this class I go to, I didn't go back again because I just could not take the woman that was so they were mujas, right? Like you hold the fingers, and she was like, amplify, activate. And I was like, oh my God, this bitch is killing me. Like I just couldn't take her seriously, okay? It would just seem like it was so forced, okay? It did not seem like a genuine voice. I was like, why is she talking like? And then in the middle of it, my dog goes and sneezes in my face, which scared the ever living out of me because I was so relaxed. I wasn't expecting it. Aaron was in the other room, and he's like, what's going on in there? And I'm like, oh, you don't even want to know. You just don't even want to know what's going on in here. So I do the mudras, okay? I sit up in bed at 2:42 in the morning, and I'm getting this like flood of memories being an angel. And there was a couple things that happened that week. Like Phil Barrow had given me a reading with David Starr, and David Starr goes, oh, your angel wings are gorgeous. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking about, my angel wings, right? And then my friend gave a reading, and she had oracle cards, and she goes, oh, this reminds me of my friend Michelle, and it was an angel. And I'm like, what is going on, okay? It was like 5 of those in a week, and I'm like, maybe they're trying to tell me something. Well, that was the night that it all came flooding back. And what was so weird is like 2 or 3 days before that raw, you're like, Michelle, when the time is right, the memories will come. Well, I didn't know you meant like within 3 days, right? Like I was like, this is going to take a while. It didn't take a while. And my friend Mark is in the chat. I did a show with my friend Mark that Saturday. I think this happened like on a Wednesday or Thursday. I start going through my phone, and I downloaded all these images off Pinterest because I find such good stuff on Pinterest about the occult. One of the things I had saved was, you might call them the Ophanum, or this is what it was. It's a picture of a statue that's somewhere in the somewhere on the globe. It's real. And it looks like the frame of a globe. So it's got the stand, it's got the 2 like intervolving wheels. And I'm looking at this thing, and I realize, one, this thing is conscious and it's in stasis, okay? And then the other thing I realize is that it's a time machine. And then I'm scrolling further, or maybe as a friend sent me a picture, but it's a man sitting in the same intervolving wheels, and it says time machine above it. And I'm like, holy shit. So I take this to my friend Mark, who's in the chat, who I trust immensely, and he's a good dowser. And we do this. There's a show on it. It's sometime in like July or August, you guys. You guys can go back and look at it. And I'm like, I feel like this thing is conscious, Mark. And he goes, yes. And we figure out that Putin or Russia, who I believe is now revolving against the Luciferian Brotherhood, is trying to figure out how to activate this thing because it is a time machine.
Mm-hmm.
And you see images of this thing all the time. Like they call it the throne of God. It looks like the wheels with the eyes on it. And, they talk about like the third of heaven that fell. I think these were master geneticists. You just touched on how they've manipulated the body. They don't know why we're aging. There's other things too. Like Dr. Lloyd Pye talked about when the technology had gotten to the point that they could look at the deoxyribonucleic acid. It's such a zoomed in spectrum that they could see coding in there that should not be there unless it had been genetically manipulated, like with CRISPR. And I'm starting to wonder, okay, so there's obviously, we've talked about this. The chakras are portals. We know there's seals that they have put on us to try to inhibit us from leaving through these portals or opening them up and exiting. I'm starting to think maybe there are other vehicles that allow us to leave this density, but I think that we ultimately are supposed to do it before we die. That we're supposed to figure out how to leave out of here before we die. Because the dying seems to be where there's this reincarnation opportunity. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, there's many ways you can leave this realm. There's not just one particular way. A lot of times when we get ready to make that transitional state, there's a portal in the heart. You know about the that saying, "Home is where the heart is." Well, Source God gave us a cheat code to get back to Him, and all you do is open that when your soul is getting ready to leave. You go into that light within your heart. All you do is just consciously you expand it with your mind, and then you walk through it. That is your gateway, your direct link to our source. It's a beautiful way of getting back without any problems. There's also other ways up out of here. There's many clouds that form in many areas of the planet, and they open up portals. They're like gateways to other realms, like right outside of this particular realm. Now they're like jump off points. One cloud can lead you to the next realm, and then once you walk into that realm, you go into another cloud, and it will lead you to the next higher realm, and you just keep jumping. You can keep jumping that way. So there's many ways of getting out of here.
I know that we have come here on purpose. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I know that there's many ways. Well, hold on, back up. Sorry. I know we've all come here for a purpose. And I'm not trying to say we all need to escape and run away. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I almost wonder if that is something we are supposed to do, because once we all decide to pull out and we're not going to feed into this anymore, then those entities that are fallen, that refuse to repent, refuse to come back to a state of love, refuse to do the work, refuse to stop doing their evil, they cease to exist. And and think about it like this, you guys. How does something that source created to live forever, how do you kill it? Well, we know energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but it can be reformed, right? Like water. Water can be ice, water can be plasma, water can be steam. Energy can be recycled into other things. And I'd like to think that there are better means for this energy than for it to continue to do its evil deeds on humanity and the animals and the planet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that, I love the work of Damon T. Barry, who, he went to Egypt, he touched the Sphinx, he had this awakening. And for 2 years after this awakening, not only was he fluent in ancient hieroglyphics, and he says that he was able to see clues that were left on all the megalithic structures that actually were not odes to the monarchs, but rather clues left for us so that we would pick up on it when we got to an advanced stage of technology and we would all leave through the sun. We would return to the stars, which is where we are supposed to be. But he also talks about being like astrally violated, astrally harassed. And after 2 years of this, he says that he goes through this book of life process. So it's literally he's rewriting the Bible, and he gets to the last words of Revelation. And all of a sudden, he says he has harnessed what he calls the power of the Lion of Judah. And this was my introduction to gang stalking. This was my introduction to everything into this realm of conspiracy theory. My whole introduction to this community was this man. And that's what led me on the road to finding Renetta. And I don't really know what happened to him, but Mark doused it, and they say that he is in hiding. But he says that every 5 to 10,000 years they reset us. And when they reset us, they put us in a more dumbed down body, that they are marching towards this Metatronic universe. And I kind of liken it to like, okay, if we're in a simulated reality, we're kind of in the video game. Are they trying to put us inside the video game inside the video game? Are they trying to keep continuing to disconnect us from source to the point we can't even remember or get back ever?
Yeah, they are literally trying to digitize us. Look, I'm going to be showing you guys so much AI, and you're going to think it's real. I warned everybody 2 years ago about how bad AI is becoming. Like, they are going to start creating digital copies of people. And it's not even the elites anymore. It's AI itself. Like,
Yeah,
these
I think
elites.
that's what it is. I love that movie Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And there's
Yeah.
this big whale there, right? They call it Deep Think, which is funny because I don't use ChatGPT. Not that I have a problem with ChatGPT. I'm just frugal, CHEAP, and DeepSeek is free, but it has a whale on it, and
Yeah.
it's called Deep Seek. And I'm like thinking, like, okay, this ancient AI, there must be something that, like, the night that I had my spiritual awakening, I saw what you might call a giant kaleidoscope or a giant lighthouse that was projecting out this hologram. Okay. And this was what I believe before the simulated reality. Because I think what has happened is this. You call it Lucifer, or I think Satan's a Draco. Okay. So I just want to be clear. I think Lucifer is a title. Because what I saw was someone that not only could withstand the brightness of the light, but they could bear out the light. So I think this is the light bearer. I think this
Mhm.
was somebody that was created or capable of projecting the light that creates the hologram that all of us are experiencing realities within. Well, Robert Stanley talks about Inky and Enlil and how they went off into some forbidden zone and they ended up with astral parasites and literally went insane, and that they were the heirs to the Orion kingdom. And that when they came back, that, their mother and father, who were the king and queen over the Orion kingdom, were like, yes, this is your born right, your inheritance, but you are not capable of bearing the responsibility of being a ruler. You are out to lunch and we cannot repair this. So I kind of think of it like these metaphors in the Bible. This fall of Lucifer was this defect in the hologram, and that there's some kind of quarantine going on over here, and that's how we've ended up in a simulation, a copycat.
Yeah. Well, it took the long ago when Lucifer reigned over Earth. It took the Elohims to come down here, and Lucifer was so damn powerful. I'm telling you right now. He had a lot of the Dracos under his control. He had a lot of humans under his belt as well, and they followed him like religiously. Uh, but he cared nothing about him. He just liked to be worshipped. He was their god. But it took the Elohims to come down here, and it took a lot of them because Lucifer was an original Elohim at first, and he fell. He fell and became inverted, liked to be worshipped, and the Elohims destroyed him, encapsulated his spirit. But like you said, energy cannot be destroyed. It cannot. And I don't know if Lucifer is still in another realm outside of this realm, projecting his work onto these Luciferians, and they're just carrying him out, or maybe they are trying to rebirth him in some form of fashion. But
I
his
have a
soul, his
friend named Ryushin who, you have to forgive me, I don't understand his story fully, and I don't want to speak for him, but he believes that he's like Lucifer in a way. And what he said is that Lucifer is chaotic because when you bring the truth or you shine light in the darkness, that's when the disgusting evil things come to the surface, and they're never pleasant to deal with.
yeah. And I think that's what CERN was for. I think that they literally tried to pull Earth. It wasn't to open up a portal. They were trying to pull Earth into another whole dimension. That's what they were trying to do. And it was shut off by other higher dimensional beings. And if it wasn't going to be shut off, it would have caused a spiritual war between these other planes and this particular Earth realm. It would have been, you would have literally saw angels come in and just start kicking ass.
I do think there's angels amongst us because, and I always have to laugh. Like, I feel so silly when I tell people, okay, you and I talked about this the first time we did a show. There's the angelic human race, but
Mhm.
there are those that have come now intentionally that have incarnated here as angels. Now, angels are
Yeah.
warriors, but angels are messengers. Okay. Some
Mhm.
of them may be on a fluffy cloud playing a harp somewhere, but really they are the ultimate warrior.
Yeah.
They're here to fight.
They're pretty much doing what we're doing right now. They're able to time jump. They're able to bilocate. They incarnate. We call them earth angels. Um, they can go into angelic forms. They can step out of this human form, go into an astral form, and become like their full self, or go into many other different higher selves that they tap into. They are very, very gifted, no matter what. But when we incarnate, we are pretty much doing the same type of work. We like to go into like the military as well. We go into
Yeah.
the military. We work alongside the dark forces just to balance things. It's about balance, keeping things balanced as we progress and expand the human collective consciousness. That's what it's all about. It's not all about coming in here and just trying to like change everything up so fast, but we move so that there are balance, that light and dark are teaching us humans to evolve and become better.
Yeah, I agree with that. I hate this whole thing about how the dark is evil, or like I don't buy into this duality thing, like the yin and yang, the Fibonacci spiral, um that only the light is good and the dark is evil. I don't think that's how it was. I think it's kind of like feminine, masculine, sun, moon, um dark, like the deep waters that they talk about like in the Bible, and then there's the light. It's obviously, to experience one you have to have a contrast, and I don't think that it was Source's intention for there to be all this evil in the world. Now, do I think that there was sorrow? Absolutely. Right? Like, you
Mhm.
have to experience sorrow to experience joy. But this
Yeah.
whole blood shedding and blood sacrifice and complete trauma and torture, I don't think that was ever the original template. And the night that I had this vision, this awakening, I mean, I journaled for hours because I was so afraid I was going to forget something, and things were clicking on such a deeper level. One of the things I drew out, Raw, was I drew out the template or the sigil of Lucifer. Sorry, I know the lights hit me. It's my angel rays. I drew out the sigil of Lucifer, and I actually drew a circle around where it folds over. And if you guys don't know this already, the Play Store logo is the sigil of Lucifer. And I
Yeah.
drew this circle with like a tesseract, and I wrote the gravity of the situation. Well, I have come to since then understand that gravity is just a misnomer for density. And Damon T. Barry said, he who controls gravity or density controls the world. So I think that even the gravity we're in, I mean, let me back up a little bit. They don't understand why we don't have fur on the outside of our bodies. The gravity or the density of Earth is causing us to have things like degenerative disc disease. You know what I mean? Like our bones are deteriorating faster. We're aging faster than they understand. I already mentioned this earlier. Genetically, they don't understand why we're not just naturally reproducing our cells and regenerating them. You know, all of these things I think are a hijacking on us. Why? I think they want to slow us down because, like you said, as the humanity presses on through time, even through resets, we seem to be catching up to them. And ultimately, you're right. We do hold the power of this. Okay. I've said this in many, many shows. They are hiding in the light spectrum. We're mainly blind here, blind with the eyes, but our spiritual eyes are strong. Our intuitiveness is strong. We all can feel things, even if we can't see them. Right. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that all of this is just a facade to make us I think they want to trip us up, and ultimately we do hold this power, because if we didn't, they would be coming out, sitting down at the table and going, okay, let's sign a contract, let's make a deal, right? And they're not. It's always in the dream state, it's always amnesia, it's always they don't want us to remember, and they want to trip us up so that ultimately we're meeting our own demise, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, a lot of times, if you're wondering why humanity or some individuals age, is because of the cell towers. They call it cell towers for a reason. I mean, they tap into our field. They also block the soul from connecting mind, body, and spirit. So they want to throw all of these elements into stopping us from progressing as spiritual beings. So if those cell towers came down today, you will see a magnificent, beautiful frequency that comes in instead of this artificial frequency. I mean, you will see so many light codes and you will get so many downloads. I mean, like fast. I mean, you will see planetary awakening happening so fast, but they control it by the cell towers.
The
That's how
cell
they
oh my
control it.
god, I don't know, I never thought about that. The cell, like the cells in your body.
Yes,
Holy
yes, that's
shit.
why they call it the cell
Sorry,
towers.
guys. I'm so blonde sometimes. Oh my God. I do
Yeah.
this all the time with the words, Raw. I can't believe I missed that one. Oh my God.
Mhm. They're literally blocking our natural frequency through these cell towers. The frequencies that we have within the body, and that comes from the soul, from mind, body, and spirit. They block that. They tap into who we are because we are like antennas. We send out signals and we receive them. And through these cell towers, we're getting all of this radiation, artificial radiation that's not from the sun. You know that they're trying to block out the sun.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah, I think they're trying to block out the sun because we know that the sun is a heavenly gate. But I also
yes,
believe that is a consciousness of source in a way. I used to say that the sun was the shadow of God.
pretty much. It's
Yeah.
another light spectrum of God. I mean, without the sun, nothing will grow on the planet. They know just how vital the sun is. The sun literally gives off life, and it expands life. It feeds life. We can't live without it. Nothing can live without the sun.
I wanted to ask you something. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. And if you don't want to talk about this, I respect that. I should have asked you before we started the show, but since we're here. So you made a video the other day and you were kind of talking about a family member that has turned into a handler in a way. And I think you had made a comment. I don't know if it was while we were on a show together or separately, but kind of how we can activate handlers, even those that are the most awake and those that are the most sentient in our community, that somehow it's kind of like North Korea, right? Everybody's so paranoid. They're spying on everyone and they're turning everybody in before they get turned in because it's like a state of fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you feel comfortable about it, if you would kind of maybe talk about how that happens a little bit.
Well, I won't go into the individual, but I will talk about how handlers are both light and dark. It's just like red and blue. And all it is these soul agreements that we sometimes get tricked into before we are born. These particular beings will come to you. They will seek you out later in life and just try to hold you back. They don't become activated until your light codes become activated. Then they get their messages that come from the other side. Now you need to start going into your full dark mission to hold this person back and cause as much chaos as possible to throw them off track. That's how it's done. They want to make you feel like you're a victim. So if you stay in your peace, you know just how you know your mission. Don't let anything throw you off track. So, and that's going to happen with star seeds. That's going to happen with the light workers. Doesn't necessarily have to always be someone that you are in a relationship with. It does not. It could be a coworker. It could be a mother or a dad that gets activated. So, and they will come to you. They will seek you out once they are activated. Once they see that your light is expanding, this is the dark force's job. This is how they keep you here. So you as long as you know how to play the game, you can navigate through all of that. Okay, and just hope that one day that they wake up and take responsibility. Because if not, once they leave this realm, they go back to the lower realm because they do have legitimate contracts. They have contracts to do this, to come in and cause chaos. Whether they complete their job or not, they're going to go back to the lower realm. They may enter another contract, or they can say, look, my contract is up. I want out. And they can break these contracts once they get down there. You know, once their mission is done, whether they succeed or fail, they can break that contract once it's done.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I went through that. Well, you know, you've been close to me all year. I lost a dog. I lost a duck. I know you guys are all going to laugh. I had two ducks, Alpha and Omega. Alpha didn't make it. Omega and I, strangest duck I've ever met. Okay. The duck was weird, but I had that and some chickens and I kept listening to my birds. So finally I rehomed them. And I knew that was such a bad idea. And against my better judgment, I did. I lost my birds, then my cat, then my dad, then my boyfriend. And I did not want to lose any of these loved ones. And I'll tell you what, like, I am not a controlling, forceful girlfriend, right? Like, I am so not controlling. I'm very supportive, but I do feel like whatever I'm giving you, I should be able to get back, right? Like if I'm supportive, I deserve support back. And I felt like I think with Aaron, what's going on, because I know Aaron's a super soldier. I think he was consolidating altars because sometimes I would get the most loving, nurturing, supportive cheerleader. And other times, like I literally could tell the moment I wasn't talking to Aaron because like the pupils would dilate, the voice would change, the empathy would go out, right? And I was like, this is not Aaron. And my biggest fear was losing this man, like, because he was one of my best relationships ever. And he's always going to remain my best friend, regardless of whatever happens. He's always going to be my best friend. And the day before I left, or maybe, yeah, it was on Sunday, he went to the gas station to get cigarettes. And on the way home, he had a cell phone appear in his hand. He went and it started ringing. And he went back to the gas station and tried to return this phone, and no one knew where the phone came from. Everybody's like, oh, you're such a good Samaritan, right? And he's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't know where this phone came from. I'm not a good Samaritan. I obviously picked up someone's cell phone, and now you guys want to tell me where the phone came from. Right? Like, that was enough to snap him out of it. That was enough to realize, oh, I'm being V2K'd. I'm being controlled.
Yeah.
One of the things that made me so happy was that I realized I had to leave. It was time to leave. I'd done my work. It was time for Michelle to move on. And at that point, he realized, I'm going to fast for a month in the backyard and meditate. And all I want is to go on my spiritual journey and find out who I am. I need to understand what the fuck is going on around me. And that was it. That was like all I wanted, right? Like, I never wanted to force him into this community. I wanted him to find his own natural segue in, his own path. And that's what finally happened. When I had finally given up and I was finally having to leave, that's when it clicked. And even like a week before I left, like all of a sudden, like we're driving to Tulsa from Oklahoma City. And all of a sudden he realizes, like, I know I was a snake person before I came in here. And I'm like, why the fuck does it have to be a snake person, right? I hate snakes. And then this morning I had this epiphany because I was talking to Anchor Haven, and I know she's in the chat, my Anchor Haven. Hey, Erin Elizabeth. I know that's a friend of yours, right? Erin Elizabeth Raw.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in the chat. Here, I'll put it up on the screen.
Okay, cool. Hey.
Hey, girl. You know, I started talking to Anchor Haven about this morning. Anchor Haven's like, Michelle, I think you're queen of the Nagas. And I'm like, oh, I don't think so. I don't know about all that. And she goes, I was thinking about this. I was like, if I did not want you to look into your dragon family, what kind of fear would I give you? A fear of dragons, right? If I did not want me looking into my snake family, what would I give me? A fear of snakes.
Yeah. You definitely got to, any fear that you have, especially in this realm, let it go. Let it go. Even, guys, I want to also tell you this, and you'll begin to understand as you elevate your conscious, even right down to your kids. If you fear something happening to them, then you are being controlled. You have to understand that on a spiritual level, they are powerful beings. Even if they go out there and get into a car wreck, even if they get taken and kidnapped or killed, let that fear go, because any fear that you have, this simulation will play with that. Let it go. Let all of it go. Fear nothing in this realm. I had to let that fear of something happening to my kids go, just so that I can function here in this realm and do my job like to 110%. I had to let anything that I fear go, because the elites will exploit your fears. They know all about it. They are masters of manipulation.
Yeah, it's got to be hard to be a parent. I can't even imagine, because I always worry about my animals now, right? Like, God, what if they get out? What if some disgusting person that's mean to animals picks? I mean, I feel weird even going out of town and kenneling my dog, right? Why? Because my dog's like a person to me. I couldn't even imagine having children in this world. I mean, shit, especially once you figure out what the fuck's going on, right? Like, you would think the safest place to leave your children's at school. And they find out what they're doing to them at the school. And you're just like, oh my, I mean, that's got to be the hardest. But you know, they say if you love something, set it free. And you're right. To master the fear is to have no fear. Exactly. So I guess I'm going to be petting snakes soon. The thing's just like a mouth. Like, oh God. You know, Susan, my friend Susan, who I'm staying with, who's an incredible woman. I mean, talk about a leap of faith, right? Like she didn't even know me. And now she let me and my little dog too come into her house. And it has been nothing but a healing experience here. She has a crystal grid up around her house. I mean, I feel more like myself than I have felt in a long time. I feel strong. I feel confident. I feel, I mean, it's only been a few days, but God, do I feel healed. And I feel like I just have so much love to give for everybody.
Mhm.
I know we
Yeah.
only have a few minutes left because you have a birthday party to get to. So I'm only going to take you for 5 more minutes, but I want to talk about a project that I'm working on.
Okay.
And that is, I want to start this horse rescue ranch. I think I'm going to end up buying property in Colorado. I've been really thinking about this. It's going to be a horse rescue where there's going to be wild horses brought in and they're going to be trained for therapy animals. We're going to do homesteading. We're going to do grid work. I'm going to have a shaman there for shamanic plant medicine. I'm going to have energy healers. This is going to be kind of like ESETI Ranch, but it's not for vacations, you guys. Okay, so we're going to have to vet people before they come there because I cannot have infiltrators coming in. But this is for people in our community where you're homeless, you're displaced, you're incredibly targeted, you need to come for healing. You walk out your door, we come and pick you up, we bring you there. You're able to go through the healing, you're able to work with the animals, you're able to work with the land. And when you leave, you have a trade. You have a trade where you're able to go and continue the healing, you're continue to work, do the work. And I want to do this, like, I mean, I'm thinking really big. Like, I'm thinking like hyperbaric chambers. I mean, this is going to be a couple $1,000,000, but
Yeah.
if you build it, they will come, right? And I want
Absolutely.
this to be a place where the staff can live. So I'm hoping I'm going to have this up running in the next few years. But this is what I feel like my mission is. It's not just about healing the planet, it's about healing the people. Because I think I said this earlier in the description of the show, even the healer needs the healing.
As soon as I started thinking about the Egypt healing chambers and how I was while you was talking about these healing chambers, I was already thinking about you can summon the Egypt healing chambers over you. As soon as I started thinking about that, the light just started, and now it's not doing it anymore. The light was just going in and out. It was like light beaming down and flickering this way. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but you could actually these healing chambers over in Egypt, um, they're still working in another time, another frequency. You can bring them to you, and they will appear around you and begin to emit light and frequency around you, just how my light was just doing just then. I don't know if the viewers caught that, but I did. But I was thinking about that light and it started beaming down on me and it was flickering just like that.
I see it.
You're gonna catch that when you upload that.
I saw it. I can see it, but I
Yeah,
have third eye activation. So I see all kinds of shit most people don't
yeah,
see.
yeah. You can summon that. You can summon these chambers. You can bring them to you. They will come to you. All you have to do is consciously think about Egypt healing chambers, and they will come to you.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to send you something after the show. Uh we'll have to save that for the next time. But you know, you are always just so spot on, Raw. You don't even know. You don't even know. I've been looking into these, I've been watching shows that I've watched years ago, and it has to do with these ancient Egypt healing chambers. So
Yeah.
if anybody wants any winning lottery numbers, you need to go follow Raw Cloud on his channel. Tell everybody where they can find you at Raw.
Well, you guys already know Raw Cloud Law of One channel. I've been out maybe going on 3 years now. Soon it will be 3 years. So I haven't been out like all the other bigger channels, but I've been putting out a lot of work on for the white hats and for humanity.
And on Rumble, you're on Rumble too.
Yes, yes. And that's just Raw Cloud.
All right. Well, Raw, you know I love you. You're like a soul brother to me. I thank you so much for your time. It's always an honor and a privilege. I always leave with a little more wisdom, but more than anything, I always leave with a heart full of love when I get to talk to you.
Thank you, Michelle. I really appreciate that.
All right, you guys, have a great weekend. Go outside, stand in the sun, hug each other if you get a choice. As I always say, choose some tact, choose some grace, and always choose forgiveness and kindness. And we love you all.
Take care.
Deuces.
Deuces.
Have a good night,